coming here for the SPECTRA Reading Series. This is the second event of 3 that we're doing this fall. We really appreciate you being here. If you missed the earlier portions, we did a community write-in. We had a writing prompt that our featured poet, Gina Franco, wrote specifically for this event. If you would like copies of it, come see us after the reading. We've got some back there. We'd be happy to share them with you. You can take those home, write some terrific work on your own, read some lovely poems. Pretty great. So hit us up for that. Thanks to everybody who read for the open mic. Give it up for all the open mic readers again one more time, please. Thank you so much. That was beautiful, especially for people who have never done this before. We love that so much. You're in the right place. Keep coming back. I know that's not usually the context in which you hear that phrase, but this is a nicer context, and this is good. So we're just recovering from life in here. And we do that through writing. And music and all that other stuff. Side note, if we enjoy open mics, which it seems like we do because there was a good number of people here and people read, good news. Tonight was the first of 3 open mics in 2 days in Rock Island. Tomorrow night there are 2 open mics. Narratives Q, our friends at Narratives QC are hosting an open mic at Theo's at 6 tomorrow. And our friend Obbs, who was here for a little bit earlier, is hosting an open mic for Roaring Rhetoric at the Skylight Luxury Lounge up on top of the hill at 8 o'clock. It's a lot of open mics in one little town in a couple days. So that's pretty cool. I think it's pretty dope. So check them out. Check out those organizations if you're not familiar. They do a lot of cool stuff. Speaking of cool stuff, other cool stuff that we have coming up. We have a workshop coming up at, I'm going to mess up the name of this park in Davenport, but at a park in Davenport we are doing a narrating grief through poetry workshop, which some dude who looks suspiciously like me, and also Becky Nakashima Brooke, who's a end-of-life doula and just a generally awesome human being, will be leading. You can take registrations back there. You can find that stuff on our website, www.mwcqc.org, as in English Writing Center Quad Cities. We have another workshop for any of you writers, or really anybody, artists, any visual artists, filmmakers. If you are creating work that you are sending out, or if you're trying to apply to residencies or fellowships or those kind of opportunities, particularly for writing, but really in general. We're hosting a workshop with a guy named Jeffrey Wolf, who won our Great River Writers Retreat residency a couple of years back. He lives in Chicago. He's going to be doing like an application boot camp. So if you're an artist who's trying to get some money, get some support for your work, find some time away so you can work on your work, which is very precious, right? Very lucrative. He's doing a workshop to help that. We kept the prices low. It's $10 for MWC members, $20 for anybody else, but we do scholarships. If you're interested, check us out. Let me know. Happy to help. Our next SPECTRA reading event, we don't have one in November, but December 7th. Very excited to welcome Jacob Sands, who's a really terrific poet who lives in Chicago. A few years ago, he won the American Poetry Review Honickman First Book Prize, which is one of like 3 or 4 of the biggest first book prizes a book of poems can win in the United States every year. So he's a badass, a long way of saying he's a total badass. And we're going to do it pretty much like we did tonight. He's going to write a prompt specifically for this. So at 6, there'll be a prompt. 7 p.m., there'll be an open mic. 8 p.m., there'll be the funky readers. We don't know who's reading with him yet. I don't have that list, but we're working with a friend organization. And so they're going to help us out. It's going to be a cool partnership like we've never done before. So trying to keep it new, trying to do new stuff, and welcome new people to this mic. Please give it up for our hosts, Rozz-Tox, Ben, Jess, everybody at Rozz-Tox. We love you guys. If you've never been here before, welcome. Get food, get drinks, support. You've probably seen, if you're in the back, it's going to be hard to see. These are little handouts with a big QR code, black and white little flyers. You've seen them? Use them. Please support this place, okay? Trying to buy the building, stay here for a good long time. They've done so much in the 13 years that they've been here. To think what might come in the next is, for someone who lives a life of the imagination, pretty hard to imagine because it's been pretty amazing and fabulous and life-changing these 13 years. So please help them stay here so we can do more awesome stuff like this, and so this community has another space where we can enjoy incredible music, incredible art, an incredible company and fellowship together. Yeah, cool? So we're going to do that. Give it up one more time for them. Okay, so one more time for the record, for our friends at home, my friends at home who are tuning in, hello, we're live streaming to YouTube. And part of the reason that we were able to do that because we have full funding support for this season's SPECTRA Reading Series, which is thanks to ARD Midwest, so we want to give it up for them. The SPECTRA Reading Series is supported by Arts Midwest Gig Fund, a program of Arts Midwest that is supported by the National Endowment for the Arts. You've heard of them probably, with additional contributions from the Illinois Arts Council, who just sent out good news about grants to some other local organizations that will probably be making noise about that, but we like them too. So give it up for our sponsors one time. All right, if you've never been to this kind of reading, generally you want to stay for the whole thing. We only have 3 featured readers tonight, not only, but it just feels, it's special. So we've got 3 featured readers. They're going to come up here. Zafirah's going to come up first, and Melissa's going to read. And we're going to close with Gina Franco, our feature, who came all the way here from Chicago. Is a professor at Knox College who writes amazing work. Has a beautiful book, which is back there. You should buy that book. Please try to stay for the whole thing. Please try to, express your appreciation as needed. You usually wait till like the end of the set or maybe the end of the poem, but as long as you're showing love and appreciation, it's like a Mennonite service. Do that as the Spirit moves you. It will be fine. No one goes first, as is tradition at SPECTRA Reading Series. If you've never been to a reading before, it's usually like, I don't want to read first. People get whingy about that, or some people really want to read first. You never know how it's going to go. So, very early on in the SPECTRA Reading Series, which we've been doing here for 12 years, decided, yes, that is a long time for a reading series. You might not know of other reading series. We're kind of the only game in town. Hi, everybody. It's just us. We're very lonely. But around the Midwest, around the country, there are reading series, and generally they don't last that long. They kind of come and go for in large part because they don't get things like funding, which we were very, very fortunate to get. But we decided early on that I would always be the joker who goes first, so nobody else has to go first. So I'm going to read a short poem, and then I'm going to introduce Zafirah, and we're going to get on with this thing. So 1 second. I'm back. This is like when people say 1 second. How often is it actually 1 second? Today it is. So if you've been to these before, I've read things. So I come to shows here. I come to every show I can here, literally every show. And I've been for years doing a thing where during the set, whoever's playing, whatever kind of music it is, I try to write along with them. I try to do like an improvised poem, kind of like what we did tonight, but without the benefit of the guidance of a terrific poet like Gina Franco, without a prompt or anything like that. My prompt is just trying to be in the moment, trying to listen to the music, and trying to capture some of what's going on this stage and some of what's going on in this crazy town in my head, and then just kind of like what the whole vibe is in the room of the world, whatever it is. And so I'm going to read another one of those. I wrote this last week during Bill McKay's set. If you don't know Bill McKay is a really amazing guitar player from Chicago that you need to check out. If you missed him, I'm sorry. He will probably be back. He's played here, I don't know how many times, like how many, 6 or 7 times, and like every time with a different project, which is like the best thing I think you can say about an artist, that they keep it new and keep it fresh, and it's beautiful. So this is about mishearing things. It's called Good Tines. Like forked tines? Yeah. You gotta, it helps that you know that. Anyway, sorry. Good Tines. Mistaken and unpredictable. Hard to map on a terrain of mishearings, like bull instead of bill, a shimmer instead of a shine, bright guitar chorus or cymbals with a smoky patina just loud enough, like a conversation under the song. Uninterrupted listening. Visitation, not versatile, not some weird revenge the algorithm exacts for playing tricks with words, messing with its guessing average, but then what makes an ass of you and me more than expecting when it's better off not bitter if, not a sailor's knot, or becoming a self-checkout robot hell-bent on some terrible, boring destination. I mean, terrific destruction. Thank you. Our first featured reader, thank you very much, very nice. Our first featured reader for this evening is Zafirah Hassan, who's been writing for as long as they can remember. Zafirah loves writing both poetry and prose. They are currently attending Blackhawk College. Other works by Zafirah can be found in the Atlas Volume 18 and the Volume 19, which you can buy back there from us. Please welcome Zafirah Hassan.
Hello. Okay, so the first piece that I'm going to be reading for you guys tonight is called God's Old Maid. She fears she has been forgotten. On the corner of 7th Street, situated in the middle of a half-dead city, she slouches against the earth. She is surrounded by imposing brick warehouses and abandoned buildings where there were once small shops and restaurants owned by familiar faces. A lovely park once sat across from her, teeming with life. It was never quiet, children's giddy laughter rang down the street as they played imaginary games. The sound of people chatting about their stresses and joys as they walked down the road. Melodic harmonies from the violinist performing on the sidewalk flowed along the breeze. But then the park was cemented over to make a parking lot, and the local businesses were bought out, and the sidewalk was left cracked and in disrepair. People slowly stopped coming around, and suddenly it was silent, and she was alone. As time passes, she withers. Slabs of pale, crumbling stone make up her old, weather-worn body. Ivy has begun to creep up her graceful steeples. Her bell no longer sings tolls to mark the hour. Sunbeams no longer shine through her stained glass windows and reflect vibrant mosaics on her once polished granite floor. The dust lining her empty wooden pews suffocates her. Before, they bore the weight of whole families. Now they creak and sigh under the unrelenting heel of emptiness. The floral scent of old ladies' perfumes would linger in the halls after Mass. Now the only smell wafting through the air is that of stale sawdust decaying in summer heat. When they first boarded up her windows, chained the wrought iron handles of her door, and took her heart along with the tabernacle, those with nowhere to go would use her as a place of refuge, resting their tired bones against the pews, eating cold canned soup from the food pantry upon her altar. They would enter through a broken window and a torn-down board, and she did not mind at all. She was grateful to be a sanctuary to anyone. It was her purpose, after all. But eventually others came along with batons and flashing lights and chased the unfortunate ones away. They boarded up her windows once again and locked her doors with even more chains. All that is left of her now is a husk of what used to be a haven, lonely and dilapidated, deprived of resolve or meaning. A short time ago, there began a commotion outside her walls. Bulldozers, excavators, and cranes have begun pulling up to the road in front of her. A wire fence lines her perimeter. Men in suits and men in hard hats have loud conversations over blueprints, and a plastic sign hangs from the fence. New McDonald's coming soon. Although she doesn't know why people are visiting her once more, and she can't quite read what the sign says, and she doesn't really understand the purpose of the machines or the fence or the blue paper the men talk over. She feels a flicker of hope. Perhaps someone has remembered her. Thank you. And the last piece that I'll be reading tonight is called Noise Near the Sea. If you wanted to disappear, you might like to try it in that ocean. Yes, that one right over there. Solely on a day like this, when the sky is full of tremendous cumulus clouds, making the day gray and speaking of a far-off storm. When it is ever so slightly windy and humid, when the air is laced with a cool, saltwater breeze, carrying the damp smell of just before it rains. Where jagged black rocks lead to a thin beach strip lining the shore, where footprints and thoughts carved into the pale, fine grains of sand are carried away by the incoming tide, erasing the mark of anyone there and thereafter. The dark waters are a bit choppy, but nothing that a humble fishing boat couldn't overcome. This ocean does not shine so much as it reflects. The echo of lapping waves is soothing somehow, as you imagine them swallowing you whole. It's breathtaking. Yet drowning is such a frightening way to die. It'll take time, minutes that feel like years. You'll be fully aware of yourself as the bone-chilling brine soaks your clothes and seeps into your skin. Your survival instincts will kick in eventually. You'll try to swim back up, Only you don't want that, so you weigh yourself down with rocks or the like. Even then, you'll panic as you lose your breath, as you feel your lungs tightening, burning as though they have been filled with hot coals. As you impulsively open your mouth for oxygen, only for it to be filled with the prickling, salty waters of the sea. You'll have plenty of time to regret your decision, but it's too late. You'll still struggle, of course. You'll flail your arms and kick your legs in a futile attempt to break through to the top. You can't help it. Your struggle will be in vain. It will bring you no closer to the surface. It will not make waves. The air bubbles that escape you, which hold your life within them, will dissipate before they reach the face of the water. And up above, to the man standing on the rocky shore, staring out at this vast biome, gritty sand scratching at his bare feet, to him the ocean will still look the same. Still calm yet choppy, still soothing, still the same cloudy sky and slight wind, the same damp smell coalesced with a biting gust of sea spray, still the same beautiful lake of cobalt blue, as a stranger, whose marks on the beach have already been stolen by the tide, wildly, regretfully sinks to the bottom. Thank you.
Give it up one more time for Zafirah. Okay. Our second reader is Melissa Conway, who's a lover of landlocked states, gas station slushies, and the drive back home. Melissa's work has been published in The Roads We've Taken from Pearl City Press, Sundog from Fruit Salad Co., and more. They operate Recycled Valentine at recycled.valentine on Insta. Melissa will say more about that, I hope. You can find Melissa playing Quad City Rollers or out hiking with their dogs. Please welcome Melissa Conway.
Hi everyone. Alright, like Ryan said, I make zines under the company Recycled Valentine. I have free titles in the back. They're $5 each, so if you like what you hear, feel free to grab them. Because if you don't like what you hear, I'd still like if you bought them. So. Alright, I'm going to start with this new piece. It's the first time I'm reading it on an open mic, and I'm so excited. This is called Until They Fledge. A grouping of cedar waxwings is called an earful or a museum. Their wings evolved into having red wax secretions as a social function. Cedar waxwings find mating partners based on the number of wax tips they have grown. The older the birds, the more tips they develop. Waxwings are one of the only birds that can survive solely on fruit, but this often results in intoxication. Waxwings that eat too many overripe berries become a danger to themselves. These typically range from city or town. City and town are often curated as a museum, full of things to label and explain and perch on pedestal, but not made for survival. City and town are often designed intentionally inhospitable to its inhabitants. This is called hostile architecture. Human beings believe in comfort as a social function, but only when earned. This often results in intoxication. This often results in secretion as a social function. Too much of a good thing turns good nature into a danger to itself. Cedar waxwings have a peaceful nature. They take turns eating from branches. They rotate out of bathing pools. This is called social cooperation. It is not typical of flocked birds. In the 1960s, cedar waxwings in the United States began appearing with orange instead of yellow tail feathers. After an investigation, it was discovered that a new kind of honeysuckle that was introduced to North America was the culprit. If a cedar waxwing ate the honeysuckle while growing a tail feather, the tail feather would grow orange. Human beings did not invent the concept of harm, only the word. The only ownership is in perpetuation. In the 1960s, human beings had no time to chew through berries and beak and bone. Their feathers were growing in sideways. Their young were not coming home to roost. After an investigation, it was discovered it was the kind of law introduced to North America that was the culprit. It was law that demands blood from a stone throne, demands bodies to take flight, demands a populace that will not intervene, law that demands a populace that will not intervene. This is not typical of flocked birds. It was law that spots violence and calls it honeysuckle. They will feed it to your young, and they will swallow it whole, tail feathers half grown. They will swallow it and say that this will change me. But I don't know how. Thank you. All right, this next piece is called There Is No Other Ending. Saturn came down to Earth to break bread with the people. He has no hands, just rings to hold them. He asks what makes our bodies fall apart. I felt the most myself at 16 with my hair buzzed off, hanging out at the McDonald's attached to the Love's truck stop off I-80 near my hometown. Me and Michael would hide out there after work, dead of night, in our polyester polos, white label laundry on the front, embroidered in thread, white and shining. It was a gentle commiseration. Sanctified camaraderie, it was we, anointed in hotel pool water. Morning came so fast, and then years, and then boiling point. There's only time until there isn't. The only thing I'm good at is saying that I'm sorry when I wish I wasn't. Thank you. This next piece is called Sour, and it just got accepted to publication for Rap Trap magazine, so keep on the lookout for that. You can all snap for me, I'm really excited about it. Alright, Sour. I used to think that I'm kind of a hard bitch to be around. Last night, Jesus came and cut my lungs sour. Now I'm sharpening my teeth down to the nerves. You haven't seen anything yet. I'm not unique in my horror. It blooms in the thick pulp of knowing that someday I will have to be somebody. It's the red rusting hinge, jointed, the briny kneecaps of martyrdom. I feel such a deep text. It's itching underneath my skin, scripture etched by rifle and songbird, a deep desire to lose my sense of pride. I have seen the end, and his face looked so much like mine. How can something so honest be ruined by the truth? Thank you. All right, and this last piece is called To Do No Harm. To do no harm is to stare into the heart of the bleeding sumac, the tapped maples, the shedding pines and poplars, and wonder how much am I allowed to take with me. I spend my evenings litigating recycle and glass jars and vegan leather's moral intersection between not killing cows and that's just plastic. Of yearning for an answer to volunteering my time versus I need more hours if I'm gonna make rent. I want to work with purpose, to use my hands and my heart to cultivate something like hope, something like a future. I want to move with the breeze and sway along to all the haunting bird song echoing off the sunrise lake I go to every time I want to die and decide not to. My dad needs money, and I need dental insurance before the infection in my teeth rots through to the jaw. I don't know how to forgive myself for the misery I'm entwined in at the realization that I've allowed myself to give in to monotony, to comfort. At all the ways I work and sleep and eat and sit outside on my front porch with a copy of the latest You Just Have to Read This paperback and close my eyes. Feel the warmth of the sun through my eyelids and smile despite the gnawing that contentment is the same as complacency, it's the same as stagnation, it's the same as rotting, and I don't know how to feel happy without the guilt of it all swallowing me in the aftershock. I don't know how to smile without repentance. How do I know if I even deserve to? How to know what I have to do to convince myself I deserve it, despite my office job and my commute and my ache to go camping for the weekend, but I never do because fuck man, gas is expensive. And can we carpool? And who has money for hiking boots and bug spray? I have to buy dog food and stock up on bottled water. It seems like the city sends a boiler notice every other week now. The guilt bites me. When I make monthly donations to the good cause I'll spend a few weeks reading about, as if diverting my paychecks to something that matters is never enough if it's not the whole thing, like I've never heard of moderation. Like I know I could really use the money. But not more than prisoners need books and lawyers. Not more than the unsheltered need shelter and hot meals. Not more than the world needs spinach and qualified therapists and clean water. And I can't reconcile that with my friends who moved on from our youth of making protest signs with borrowed glue and cardboard boxes and Save the Elephant turning into Chick-fil-A and Hobby Lobby like it never fucking mattered. Telling me they're happier now. They're not wallowing now, and I can't help but mention, that makes you sound like the villain, and fuck you, and wouldn't your younger self be so disappointed and they don't talk to me anymore. I am angry at all the wrong people sometimes. You can call me misguided, it's okay. I know that's on me. I know people are just trying to find a reason to keep going, and that's okay. I know there's a kinder approach to take. I know. I'm working on it. But it's so fucking hard not to be angry, seeing how happy the enemy looks, and I know I swear more than my mother would like. She says it always ruins the poem. This is another one she won't print off to send to my grandmother, but god damn, I wish she would. I know there are healthy ways to have discussions about saving the world. About how I know I can't save the world, about how I have spent way too long trying to swallow more than I can stomach, trying to hold hands and make peace with the drowning, like asking, is this really all for nothing? When I close my eyes late at night, the glow of the streetlights illuminating my bed sheets, I spend my time listing all the things that I want. Things like affordable produce, playing cards at the kitchen table with Katie with all the windows open, a sprig of lavender soaked in lemonade, an air-conditioned movie theater with half-price tickets in the dead of summer. Time to read and still go for a walk before it gets too dark out. To paint the worst thing I've ever made and show Khalil because I know he'll still smile and say that it's beautiful. To know that I created something with my own two hands, to know we will leave something, anything good in this world, to live in bliss and community and expression. When I sit in the muddied marshes, when I swim at the lake with my best friend and my dog, when I eat dinner at my mom's house, when I fall asleep in budding cornfields swallowed up in sunlight, that's when I know people deserve more than the boxes we've built ourselves into. I know that people deserve more than oil and landfill and credit card debt, and I know I can't save the world. I never really knew how. So I'm just trying to be kind enough and love enough and talk enough and fight enough to leave it with something like hope left shining in my wake. Thank you.
Give it up one more time for Melissa Conway. I need a minute. I don't know about y'all. If you don't, good for you. I do, and I'm here with this. So. Okay. Our final featured reader for the evening is Gina Franco. And before I introduce Gina, I just want to say, a couple years ago, we do an annual writing conference. For those who don't know the Writing Center, we do an annual writing conference in June every year. This coming year is going to be our 20th anniversary. We're trying to do, but yeah, you can clap, that's cool. It's not fully in my brain yet, so the more I say it and people respond to it, the more real it will seem. We did a virtual conference 3 years ago, something like that. And as we have for a long time, because Rozz-Tox is so generous, we always have faculty reading, and we did it here, but a lot of the faculty was remote, so we were trying to work it out, and this dum-dum dropped the ball too many times. We're not going to get into logistics, but there were technical issues. Let's put it that way. There were technical issues that I was responsible for, but, and like basically it worked out so like people were reading, but they didn't know, like if you're ever on a Zoom, but you don't know that other people are there, even though like you're not in the same room, if you know people are listening and participating, you can see little squares, you know like, okay, there are people with me, like I'm kind of doing the thing. Apparently that wasn't the thing, because Gina was on the faculty for the conference and read and gave this beautiful reading virtually here, and the few of us who were here were like jaws on the floor, like, oh, so good. And then immediately was like, is anybody out there? Is anyone watching this? And we were all like, oh no, and there was just like this huge disconnect. It made me very sad. Long story short, I was very, very sad, very disappointed, because I hate that for any writer, especially someone we would invite. I hate that. So just from a personal level, it's so special to have you here, Gina. I'm so grateful that you could be here and come back and we could do this proper, in the room, with love and with poetry and in community. So with that, I just want to say thank you, personally, me to you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you for being here. Gina Franco is the author of 2 books of poetry, The Keepsake Storm from the University of Arizona Press, and The Accidental from the University of Arkansas Press, which again, for those of you who haven't been playing along, we have back there. You need that book. It was also the winner of the 2019 Canto Mundo Poetry Book Prize and listed by NBC Latino as one of 10 books from 2019 by and about Latinos you shouldn't miss. She's published widely in journals and anthologies, most recently with 32 poems and with the forthcoming issue of Poetry magazine. Her poem, The Line, an elegy for her father that reflects on the Great Arizona Copper Strike of 1983 and the lynching of Mexican and Mexican Americans, was selected for the 2024 publication of Latino Poetry, the Library of America anthology, and is featured on their website, which is massive. The Library of America, those are the black covered books, right, that you've probably seen. Like, think of like Ye Famous Author. They probably have their collected works published like by the Library of America. So like a very, very big deal. Definitely want to check that out. Her poems can be read online with Agni, the American Poetry Review, Narrative, Poetry Foundation, and Poets.org that does the Poem a Day series, which you should sign up for. She teaches at Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois. It is my great privilege and pleasure to welcome Gina Franco. There's a step.
I have short legs.
Gina, mic adjusted. I'll make a good version. Do you want me to adjust the mic?
Yeah, I got it. I think I got it.
Okay, cool.
I think I got it. It's a little slow. It's slipping out. I'm
Here you
a
go.
little
I got
short.
you. I make an excellent ready. Years of playing in bands.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, thank you. No, that's great. That's perfect. Thank
Just
you.
go. No problem.
Oh, thank you all so much. Thank you, Ryan, for this incredible opportunity. We've had a wonderful night together.
Definitely.
We've been writing together, we've been reading together, and now I'm going to give you just a little bit of my work. And I want to begin with a little bit of music and a prayer for beauty. That's what I think of this. It's called Litany for a Table of Immovable Feasts. Stay for me, still life, ceaseless tree, stay. Stay who stays the real, you root of mind, you constant moat, pruned shoot, sealed board, beam of sudden come back for me, please. Would you say for me, last possible whole world, for wouldn't me still possible to believe, for a place stay put, for fruit in full, for call against but, meal against fell, guest within the rule in will, you all me, you me. Who promised me, who likened me, made me, fetish me and grieved me, but pleasure me, hungered me, overstandard me, bored me, my act, stay for me, come back to flee the rest of me, to spectre me, and put an end to me, to negative me, through and through. For I consume too much of me, poor me, for my feel possible you. I'm going to read the line because it was mentioned in my short bio. Thank you, Ryan. I sent a bio not really thinking about how these things set up the reading, but I'll read the line. What you should know, content warning I suppose, is that it references the lynchings of Mexican Americans on the border. There were lynchings on the border at one time, and it also references the labor union situation in the town that I grew up in Arizona, and the uncertainty of how to somehow have unity in a town where the union is somehow so prevalent and at the same time doesn't represent most of the workers of the mine. So it creates this great divide, right? It creates a great divide. So I'll just read this, and there's an epigraph that comes from a website that references the language at the time from a news report. The epigraph is, a serious surplus population that needs eliminating. The line. So now we are equals, ¿verdad? All along eyeing the same banks, as though we might surface on the same shore. Bare backs to the sun, wet shirts in hand, boots aside, those two, you keep saying, el otro lado, see you there, face to face, no worries. The last good lynching was long ago. Ropes, belts, canteens sway in the tree. The tree sings with lightness. In time, the fruit shrank in the heat, grinned wide from the bone, dropped to the dirt, rot. The earthworm's heart, this now, a knot, a fishing spot. The sweet blood smell of the hook right through, the impaled form right through, either soft end writhing on the line. Beneath the surface, neither vertebral nor articulate it sways. Underwater, guts and skin, it sways from the other side, ¿verdad? Not a lure, but a rumor, a mirror of a parallel end. We'd fished the shallows with stripped willows, with a hellgrammite drifting in the current, and that's where we trapped our leviathan, iridescent scales that slid away from our hands, where we crossed the swinging bridge and found effigy and sign, death to scabs crossing the line, a volleyball head, and a pair of shovels for limbs, the hanging white sheet, the slashed body of many. The hanging white sheet, the slashed body of many, a volleyball head, and a pair of shovels for limbs. Effigy and sign, death to scabs crossing the line, where we crossed the swinging bridge and found iridescent scales that slid away from our hands. And that's where we trapped our Leviathan. With a hellgramite drifting in the current, we'd fished the shallows with stripped willows. Y verdad, the cities on either side of the river watched one another from the eyes of their televisions. Their headlines raced beneath glass. They have taken my father's body, and I do not know where they have laid him. And light, love, as the sinker, the line sinking deep. The last time I saw my father was in a dream, seated on every side of the table of ancestors, and belonging so fully, he ceased to exist. They arrived on the other side, at the tree at the end of this world, and the tree drank deeply. Love as a secret, unbearable map. Tell me, verdad, where have you laid the body? And I will bear him away. I will bear him away. I will bear him away. If you'll indulge me, I've never read this poem in public. And it's long. And that's why I don't read in public. And it's one sentence. And to give you a sense of how to follow it, it actually begins with a scene between a person, a beloved who was knocking on the door of the lover and who doesn't quite get to make the connection and who leaves some peonies on the door, and they are left there without a message. Because you know this actually happened, right? and they're left there without a message. And then the question is, what is this relationship about? And how do we actually get the two people in the poem together? So this is one of the few poems I've written where things actually do somehow come together in joyful ways. So thank you for indulging me. Okay. This is called Annunciation of the Self-Enclosed God. It is one thing to invoke the beloved, to have him stand at the door armed with blossoms and knock. It's another to have him hesitate, silent on the porch, pictured in the wide-angle lens that flattened him and the house into the single dimension of a monochrome snapshot. A sameness in which the turret window's stone wall over the gray porch enclosing nothing, echoing nothing. Though in reality, the day is damp, hot, green, full of orange insects in flight, and the smell of mown dandelions, and the squeal of the wood door that swells with rain, that sticks in the jam if one should be home to open it to the beloved, this unmoved beloved, who is, by now, a figure of doubt, in a blue suit, made bright by the yellow house enormity around him. The beloved who stands with his back to us as if he will remain a stranger for ages. And given that he has become trivial, almost minuscule in the scene, given that he is less revelation than a longing-looking shadow among long morning shadows, it's true. It's likely he'll become the intruder in the silver world of the negative, however willingly. For once summoned, what is left but to become a flash of angel or a ghost, a bar of time, motionless, but about to move. Not a who chose to enter the frame of this otherwise impersonal address, but an analogy, as it's been said, of the missing enclosure of God. The open fields of impressions, disfigurements, tricks of light, lies, all those stories within which the out-of-place beloved, the unloved beloved, is turned away as unrecognizable, as a remnant left to leave the peonies on the door to wilt in white paper, petals spoiling on the stoop, without, after all, knocking. And given a frame or two to turn towards the open street, to pause to notice that the mown grass has collected on his wingtips, to step briskly, lightly, in a half flight down the few remaining feet of walk belonging to the yellow house, with the set of white doors that become a backdrop for the pink, forsaken peonies, so that now what is left is a beautiful frame with a beautiful object dying inside it, left without inscription or signature, a photograph in itself, pretty, but utterly messages, which in time does seem to be the fate of still life, that it says so little, or that rarely it speaks without quoting itself, peonies, door, over and over, with that self-enclosed gaze that excludes any chance of the thou coming into the picture, the one arriving, who so badly wants to be spoken to into existence, who wants to have been awaited and wished for and begotten for this end, who longs for this to speak, to say, at last, you are here, as a sign of what is significant. Like a book of hours laid open midday in outstretched hands, wearily, on a day that has not yet given much thought to hope, and that is boxed in by emptiness on every side, not unlike the scene recently abandoned by the beloved, who, though he chickened out, really, can hardly be blamed, because it appears no one is home in the yellow house to look out the turret windows from the dusk, to have seen the gardener, the landlord, give shape to the bushes with his shears, weed the beds of stray morning glories, water, rake up what he cut down, light it on fire,
and leave the garden pretty well near perfect by the time the beautiful messenger appeared in the frame with his gigantic flowering sea. One arm dripping bright petals down to the stoop, and his suit the color of the bright sky. Though I may be confused with memory, the time I watched from the lens of my camera, my colorful beloved throw flowers into the bay, watched his sea of petals break and rise and eventually sink. Quite another thing from the failure we have seen in this unfinished artwork. The Annunciation reduced to generalized taciturnity with expectation that it may never speak again, if it ever spoke previously, and is thus what seems left often since the garden expulsion. A dull pointlessness of things, this frame and this object in the frame. Pink flesh against wood, sagging heads so heavy, leaves hardly outstretched anymore. This simultaneous dying and blooming, all too familiar and, well, sad. Too sad to keep looking. Though mostly we ignore what grieving comes of putting everything, me, on exhibit. Or more true, of forgetting. And this is the thing, that the Grail holds absolutely nothing if there is no beloved pouring his wine sea into the overflowing cup. If he has so far withdrawn that he no longer exists, but as an image of longing. The man ascending the stairs with an armful of Pentecost roses. The man in a hush stepping out of his shoes to surprise his beloved. The man and his beloved, who is surprised, though not very, standing together in the stairwell as his beloved slips her arms around his middle and hugs her head against him, his beloved, who descended the stairs to say, "The vines have budded, the grape blossoms have opened, and over our doors are all choice fruits, new as well as old, which I have laid up for thee, O my beloved." I'm going to finish with one more. That's all right. This is called The Wall. The wall. Where shall I exit and how? From leaves become stone, from riverbed stones in the walls around trees, if you are able. By expulsion through a sieve, never to return, this also. Looking back, the sieve shook violently, and the soul passed through as though passing through itself. But it arrived as though arriving at some other, one which sought the tree within the leaves as it watched the leaves and shook, which fell as the leaves fell from the tree to the sieves of the earth and made stone. The leaves which helixed their vegetable ladders through the layered weight of all the earth and limbed their widowed ghosts into mineral cells. The leaves which writ their veins in stone. The stones which wear their leaves in water down to wall-side lows. The stones, so many minds set and in their own way. The soul, who held each stone as leaves in the sieve, who set each stone as leaves in the wall which hungered to begin again, and which reached for the drop at the end of the earth and built itself and grew, as did the railroad track, the highway, and the bridge, and the wall crossed them all. And sleep, which closed its eye to the wall and overwhelmed the earth and its animals, which is its purpose. Thank you so much.
Give it up more time for Gina Franco. Keep it going for Melissa Conway. Keep it going for Zafirah Hassan. All the readers of the Open Mic. Y'all are amazing. Includes the program. Come buy some books, get some food, get some drinks, come say hi, support. That. Do it. Make it happen. We will come back here soon. There's all kinds of cool shows and stuff. You can see posters up there. Schedule. Just keep coming back. Come back all the time. And we'll be back here for the next Spectra in December. Bye, y'all. Have a good one. Get home safe. Love you.